At this time, I'd like to request Mr. Ashim Sachdeva to kindly offer his remarks.
Khan, Dr. S.N. Carey, Vice Chancellor, Brack University, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. And thank you very much for coming here today, taking time from your busy schedules to be with us for this, what we believe is a defining moment for us, because it gives us the satisfaction to know that partners we work with are really serious about improving not just the quality of research output or academic output, but looking at the larger issue of integrity from the perspective of academic excellence. Integrity is merely a foundation. It is not the be-all end-all of the objective. The ultimate objective is how do we reach the pinnacle of excellence in both academics and research. And we at Turnitin have firmly believed always that we're not a partner to police ethics. We're not a partner to help organizations find faults. We are a partner that helps to build from the grassroots the qualities that will determine the success of a nation coming out of its quality of its research and academic output. And as partners with institutions like Brack University, University of Dhaka, etc., it is our firm belief that ultimately the defining moment for any country is when the original research and original academic output delivers results that can benefit society at large in that country. So it's really a much larger question. It's not a question only of saying, how do I detect similarity in X paper or Y paper? That is, yes, it's important because it creates the culture of integrity and builds on the whole body of excellence that an institution wants to build. So I just want to take a few minutes to take you through a few slides that I put together as the framework or starting point for these discussions. Okay. I take it just a minute. I think I need to give the password. So essentially, when we talk about integrity, it's really as a foundation for excellence in education and research. And what defines this key pillar of education is what we do in our institutions, starting with defining policy, defining norms of integrity to guide the institution, and affirming integrity as a core institutional value, followed by raising the awareness of that by communicating this integrity policy widely across the institution. A lot of times people do things because of lack of awareness. It is not deliberate. It is simply that nobody told them what was the right way to do things. So at a very fundamental level, awareness of the policies not as a punitive course of, but as a way of growing the mental and intellectual capabilities of your academicians, researchers, and students needs to be communicated to the stakeholders at the institution. It's not about just helping them understand what the risks of the internet, etc. Everybody knows that. I think that's a very fundamental, basic thing. It's more about saying that, look, ultimately, what are we trying to achieve? We're trying to help you grow your intellect so that the critical thinking faculties of your mind, the mental IQ faculties of your mind can actually help you deliver original thought, original ideas, and that will give you satisfaction as a researcher or as a student, rather than to say that I copied somebody's and put it there and just use that idea. So, with awareness and education, two of the important elements of integrity in an institution have been covered. And then really it's a question of how the institution decides to protect its values. What is it that it wants to do? Again, while the word protect is useful, I think the ultimate objective is not really protection. The ultimate objective is excellence. And as institutions build a culture of integrity and work further on instituting that culture of integrity, they are moving higher and higher on the road to excellence. A lot of people believe that integrity comes from within. Obviously it does, because fundamentally the belief is that everybody is ethical, everybody is aware of integrity and has integrity. But there are often circumstances that force people or put people in a situation, whether it is time pressures, whether it is peer pressures, whether it is ignorance, whether it's lack of understanding of what constitutes paraphrasing, what does not, etc. That lead people sometimes to use a practice that may not be at the highest level of original content. So therefore, it's important to understand that while fundamental attitudes and beliefs in ethics are inborn in us, ingrained in us, for students, what constitutes academic and research integrity can be explained and taught. One of the first things we've observed over the years is that as students start using any software, any tool which helps them to become better writers and not just learn it in any other tool, there is a dramatic increase in the output quality at that institution. And we also did try and put together a list of what constitutes practices that may be deemed to be not original writing. And we grouped them into 10 predominantly found practices which can be termed as lack of original content or leading to lack of original content. So these are 10 types of unoriginal works that we have ranked according to severity and the number of times they appear in published works. And this, we found that if you start encouraging students from an early age to understand and learn this, it helps to build the culture of integrity. Similar to that, and I think I apologize for the small font on this side, but essentially it's the same thing as what was on the others. Really talks about how integrity in research situations can be applied by scientists and researchers. So, is plagiarism only a cheating issue? No, it isn't. It's not really a cheating issue. Plagiarism is something that encompasses many things. You know, it is the consequence of all these facets of writing skills that may eventually lead to something being unoriginal content. So whether it is proficiency in the language, whether it's English or Bangla or any other language, what are the norms of collaboration? So how do I work with fellow authors? How do I work with others who are collaborating on my project? What are the skills required, whether it's citation skills, paraphrasing, etc., etc. Now, I don't want to take too much time because all of you have gone way beyond this. All of you are masters of this, and you are, very well-established researchers and academicians. I just wanted to raise some of these things as a fundamental starting point for this discussion. And also the fact that when you have strong writing skills at an institution, then over time, the instances of plagiarism automatically tend to decline. That is what has been shown by research over the last 20 years, that we have done, others have done. So, how does integrity then translate into academic excellence? So if you assume that in any academic institution there is really a spectrum from the undergrads to the PhDs, and you look at the spectrum in the form of the edifice of the institution, then clearly the highest risk for any unoriginal content lies at the upper end of the spectrum, at the right end of the spectrum, which is at the PhD and the research levels. Whereas the risk at the lower levels is really about, not as much about research writing, etc., but more about how do you build the skills that will eventually create researchers and PhD scholars and academicians who will not have to worry about using any tool, because by then the ingrained practices of critical thinking, good writing, would be so ingrained in them that regardless of what tool is there or not there, there will be no doubt about the fact that all writing is original, all content is original. So really it's reaching that level of proficiency. And some of the research has shown that in about 15,000 institutions that we work with across the globe, that when we start using that, by year 3, we find that there is about a 45% decline in unoriginal content, in papers, assignments, etc., which are submitted at the institution. And also we found that we added certain feedback and grading mechanisms to our applications over time. And a lot of students have come back and said that, look, online feedback and grading mechanisms in your application actually help instructors to do a one-on-one with us very quickly, for which they may not have had time otherwise. And therefore it helps us substantially in learning how to apply and use the principles. It's also true that in our institutions, and both academic and research, because of the ratio of teachers to students, because of the ratio of mentors to scientists and so on, very often we are not able to spend as much time one-on-one with our students and our students and research scholars as we would like to as guides or teachers. And it's important to do that, because really when you're teaching a class of 35, 40, 50 students, it's very difficult to really focus on somebody's inherent strengths, etc. You tend to focus on the top 1% or top 5% because you know them, you think that they'll do well, and you tend to focus on the bottom end also because you need to encourage them and help them. But with tools like Feedback Studio, you can actually spread that by saving time for instructors to actually reach out one-on-one with many more students. It's also been shown by research that faculty who use online feedback and grading tools have actually reported that there is a substantial decline in the amount of time that they need to spend grading assignments, checking papers, etc. And therefore they're able to devote more time to their own original writing, their own research activities, their own research findings and so on that they have to. So that really is a quick look at some of the research that we've done over the years and what we believe is the goal of a tool like ours or any tool of similar nature. It is not policing, as I said at the beginning. Dr. Akbar Ali Khan said very rightly that ethics is fundamental, it's a foundation, and everybody can use that foundation to build the kind of excellence that he or she is capable of. On the point that Dr. Carey raised about looking at pricing, etc., so that more people can use it, it's always a challenge to be able to deliver a quality product at a price that will make everyone happy. Because the fact is that to maintain quality of a product, investment is required. A great deal of money is to be spent on things like managing 8.2 petabytes of data. We manage 8.2 petabytes of data for making sure that the confidence that you have when you use the tool is at the highest level. So all these factors obviously cost money, and we have to make enough to make sure that we can continuously invest in that. For example, we are now working on some additional applications which will allow institutions to utilize code similarity checks if they want to for their computer programs or their engineering programs. We're also artificial intelligence for authorship investigation. Again, it's based on patterns of prior writings, previous published papers and so on, and using linguistics, using forensic linguistics, using AI, machine learning. An institution or anybody who's interested in knowing whether this paper is from a particular author or not can do that. So all these are actually tools that help you to make sure that the confidence level that you have for your institution retains at the highest level. Having said that, we are not averse to, and we are not deaf to customer feedback and requirements. We listen very closely. It is our job to make sure that we try and implement whatever best we can when we hear customer feedback. We are looking at different ways of doing that. For example, at the undergrad level, where the risk is comparatively less, we are looking at building an internet-only search application which can be used by an institution for its undergrad, and then use a higher level of application which searches the published databases or the published papers for the postgrad and for the PhD scholars. So that will allow an institution to spread its cost in a more economical manner across its risk zones, and therefore apply the highest cost factor to the highest risk areas. So we are looking at all that, and please stay tuned. We will be in touch. We will bring to you all the developments around that. And it has been Turnitin's objective over the last 21 years to be a partner with not just the institutions but the country. We work very closely with the national bodies like the UGC in India. We're working very closely with them. We've worked very closely with other bodies in UK and Pakistan, etc. And it is our objective to work with your national bodies as well, to be able to work a way in which the maximum number of institutions, researchers, faculty members, students can eventually use a software, whether ours or anybody else's. That's their call, that's your call. But our objective is to be a partner for the long term. So thank you very much. And on that note, I would request all of you to once again please applaud Dr. Akbar Ali Khan and Professor Carey for their remarks. And I look forward to an excellent panel discussion that follows thereafter. Thank you very much.